What's up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Dark Room, where two blind cinephiles illuminate the sighted. I'm Lee Pugsley.
I'm Alex Howard.
And this is a podcast hosted by two legally blind guys for film lovers of all abilities. And today, we're going to take a slight deviation from talking about film, and we're going to go into the world of live performance. We have a very special guest here, Joanne DiVito, who is part of Audio Description Los Angeles. She is a live audio describer, and she's also been a performer on Broadway, a dancer, and a choreographer. Welcome to the show, Joanne. It's a pleasure to have you.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you, Lee. Thank you.
And we're so excited to just dive into kind of hear about your background with them performing and how that's led you to audio description, as well as dissecting some of the nuts and bolts of what you do as a live audio describer. I know that we've had some people from your team on the show before, and we always like to start off by asking our guests, how did you get into audio description? And for you specifically, how did you transfer from performance to audio description? And how did your background help you when you got into live audio description?
Yes. Well, originally I started out as a ballet dancer of all things and studied at Ballet Russe and Ballet Theater. And that was my trajectory. And I was going to go into ballet, and I got a Broadway show instead. And as I said, it's basically, it became a fork in the road. And so I went on to I worked with Richard Rodgers and Ethel Merman and Irving Berlin. And it was just a blessed career for about 10 years. And then I moved to California and became a choreographer for 25 years. So it was an incredible career, but I was a dancer, and dancers have a short life. Even though I had gone a long time, and I was probably in my late 40s when I decided to retire and became the director of career transition for dancers. So I actually had a bridge to the rest of my life, which was eventually in my retirement. I actually found audio describing. And the way I found it is Deborah Lewis, who is our boss, actually, she started Audio Description Los Angeles, was in my choir. We were singing together. And I kept on seeing her at the theater all the time because I write reviews. And I said, "So, Deborah, what do you do?" And she said, "I'm an audio describer." And I said, "Please explain what that is." And then she explained, and I said, I want to do that. I want to do that because as a kid, I don't know if I would call me low-sighted, but I was practically blind until I went to college, when I discovered how blind I actually was and had an operation. And it was phenomenal to be able to see. So I thought, I really want to reach out and be able to do this because I love the theater and I love the patrons, and I just wanted to describe what I was seeing eventually that I could actually see. So it became this lovely career for me and I do other things. I'm a professor over at Cal State Northridge, and I write reviews for LA Dance Chronicle, and I judge dancers now. So I have 4 jobs. It's amazing. And I go, how do I do this? But one of my favorites, of course, is being an audio describer because I love the patrons. I love to meet them. And part of being an audio describer is to speak in very short sentences, sometimes just a word to describe what's going on stage. And so when I finally get to meet the patrons, I can actually talk to them in full sentences, and it's very, very fun. And they're always training me too. They're always telling me how I could be a better audio describer. I've been doing it I think I got trained just before the pandemic, and now I'm an old timer, kind of.
Do you remember what your first audio description was? Play?
It was, yes, it was a Shakespeare play. It was Richard the Third. And and I was so terrified because to actually speak out loud and describe everything that was going on, it was amazing. Over at Noise Within, what is that wonderful play that it's just a comedy, but there was so many doors going in and out, and we were just having an amazing time trying to describe everything that was going on stage. Because the more that's going on stage, the more important it is for you to focus the attention on the proper thing that actually tells the story. So yeah, Richard the Third. Ooh, scary.
That's a very good segue into the next question that we're curious about. Coming from a performance background, then, do you ever find yourself thinking like a performer? And obviously, there's a difference between being a performer in live theater or dance versus doing live audio description. But do you ever find yourself thinking like a performer? And if so, how does that influence what you notice and what you choose to describe?
That's such a good question. Because I'm a dancer, of course, there's a whole terminology that you learn. And working on stage or Broadway, there's stage terms also. So the first thing that I go for is the old stuff that I know. Is that an arabesque? Is that a grand jeté? Is that a what? Or is that, stage left or stage right? And I want to go to those terms, but I always have to really rethink how I'm going to describe it so it makes sense to someone who doesn't know any of those terms or who's a novice at I describe it as a real thing, like movement to the left, undulating, running, leaping, turning. And so it becomes really important to translate. So I'm learning a different language as an audio describer than as a dancer, as a director. It's a different. So I learned a lot of different languages. And because of that, it really makes me seriously concentrate on how I'm going to make it an emotional experience for the patron. Like very often, I did Giselle, which is an emotional ballet. It's very emotional. And how I was going to convey the movement and the emotionality of the characters and who they are and what they're doing. So ballet is a very difficult thing to describe. So to translate that is it's very challenging, which is what I love.
Yeah, I can imagine the challenge in that, especially, coming from that performer background of like thinking of terminology that we know as performers like stage left, stage right, upstage, downstage. And
Yeah.
even as a dancer, knowing all those different ballet or choreography terminologies, different types of combos or moves that
Yeah.
the patron may not understand, and really kind of having to have that like learning curve or that adjustment to think, how do I simplify this so that the audience member understands what's going on?
Yes, exactly. So when you're previewing, and we usually have one preview that we see, we take notes, and then thank goodness for YouTube. Sometimes they have the ballet, so you look at it and you say, okay, how would I describe her lifting her arm, bringing it to her head, and fainting, or however I wanted to describe it. And then it's always thinking in terms of pedestrian movement so that it communicates. It's a very challenging but very rewarding. At the end, you just feel like you've done an entire ballet in a different way.
Now, there's one thing that I wanted to touch on really quickly that you talked about with the emotion of a performance, that whether it's a ballet or another piece of live performance, it could even be a concert or a piece of theater, that I can imagine, just because we're all human and live performance can be very moving. Do you ever find yourself getting emotionally involved with a performance as you're describing? And when you do, how do you navigate that? And can you think of any examples of when that happened?
Oh my gosh, I can. I really can. I'll never forget the first time I actually described Wicked. And the first act, at the end of the first act, was so emotional for me. I started choking up and I was trying to figure out how to speak. Because I could not speak. The tears were just rolling down my face, and I thought, you better get a hold of yourself. You can't be falling apart in this. And so it was very challenging, and I've that's happened a few times actually. There's a beautiful play at the Geffen. Did you see The Inheritance?
I did not get to see that. I really wanted to. I just missed it due to
Oh,
scheduling.
it was the most remarkable play of 6 hours. It was challenging, and I did it with Deborah. And at the end of the play, you describe the last scene, which is so beautifully done, the lighting and and just the trees changing colors, and I remember just choking up, and it's almost like Barbara Streisand. I'm learning how to speak while crying because she can sing. I don't know how she does it, but it's really you have to almost forget that you're in it. You have to supersede it. You have to kind of live above it, and that's a challenge for me because I love the theater so much, and sometimes it really hits me in the heart.
You said that play was 6 hours. How did you switch off with Deborah and like
Yes,
eat and take breaks and stuff?
yes. Actually, it was 3 hours, and then we had a break for dinner, and then another 3 hours. And she and I split. And I believe the first act, there were two acts within the first and second piece. So she would do one part of it and I would do another, and then we would switch off and she would start the second portion of the play. So I ended the play at the very end. And because it was so intense from the beginning to the end, it felt like I had been living through it. I'll never forget it. Actually, it was a phenomenal experience for me.
And out of curiosity, have you ever done audio description for TV or film?
I haven't, but Deborah does a lot of film and TV, and so does JC, I think. JC does. And Anthony, he still works as an actor. So he's done voiceovers and all of that. I've done some voiceovers as a choreographer, just to but it wasn't a whole show.
I see. Yeah, it just makes me think about the differences between live audio description, especially if you're doing something like a 6 hour show
Yeah.
versus doing a film or television show. Because at least with film or television, if your throat gets dry or maybe you get caught up in the emotion of what you're watching, you can pause it and take a little bit of a break before
Yeah.
you record your next line of description. But within live performance, as you're doing it live, just as they're doing it live, you can't really take those breaks as much to
Right.
regroup.
That's right. With that, basically on when you're doing television or film, you're scripted. So you're actually you've time coded and scripted. But when you're doing live theater, it's exactly what is happening at the exact time that it's happening. And so your concentration has to be almost like meditation. So you are so focused and you are not distracted. You can't be distracted because you'll miss something that's important. And sometimes there are little clues that happen in the play that really are the clue to the next scene. So you have to be really present. It's a workout, is what it is.
And the other difference too is with movies, you have the movie or the TV show and you can rewatch it over and over to pick up on things that maybe you missed the first time around. Where within theater, I know when we've had Roman, JC, and Anthony on, they talked about how they will get one night to go watch the show beforehand. Maybe if they're fortunate, they can go see it one or two more times.
Yeah.
But if that's not the case, then you really just have to be so focused and so much in the moment. I'm curious to know though, have you ever had a show that you described that you had no previous preparation for, meaning you didn't get to watch a performance of it before you described it?
Right. I'm trying to think if I ever did. I think JC has jumped in, and I think Roman did also. Sometimes, if that's the case, you can go off the script, but you have to, in some cases, they have, and I don't know if this is legal or not, but they used to have videos on YouTube of the entire show. And sometimes you can do that. You can preview that way. But that's really rare. It's hard to find. So I'm always researching. I haven't really had to describe if I had no clue what was happening without doing some research.
What's your process like? Do you take notes when you go watch it the first time and
Yeah.
like and how has your process changed from when you first started?
Well, my process, basically, what a good question that is. I basically see the play. I will take notes. And sometimes we can take pictures if the theater allows us to do that. So at least we know what the different sets look like. But then I do a massive amount of research because I like to get in depth what the musical is about, give myself enough understanding so that I feel like I'm putting on the cloak of I'm actually putting on the whole coat of what that play is about. And it makes me feel comfortable. I don't know. Some people are very verbal and they can just go off the cuff. I have to research. So sometimes I will mark up the script. I will say, okay, this is like I've Peter Pan goes wrong. Oh my gosh, it was so fast, and there were so many comedy I mean, so many comedy cues that I knew I had to be on top of it. And Clue, if you've ever seen Clue or any of the Go Wrong plays, it's so fast that you have to prepare the patron for something to happen. And then when it happens, that's the reason. So I like to be ready and willing to give a little bit of a hint before it happens. Like sometimes I will warn people if there's going to be a shot in the dark or all of that. So, and then when I actually describe, sometimes I will just describe off what I know and understand. Sometimes I will check with the script because it's almost like a preparation. It tells me what's coming next. So it gives me a warning sign too, which I find helpful.
Now, when you say warning sign and you say that sometimes you'll cue your audience into something that's coming, what
Yes.
kind of verbiage do you use for that? And is that part of the live description or is that pre-show that you'll tell them?
Sometimes what I'll do is because of the way the play is set up, let's say you don't really see the character raising the gun because he's behind a wall or you can see it, you can barely see it. I will tell the patron that he's raising his gun and pointing it at a specific place. So when the shot comes, it's not going to be a surprise. I mean, it will be a surprise, but it won't be a shock. And I feel that's really important because when it's a shock, then it kind of shakes the rafters and people have to recover from it. So I want to make sure that they're aware that something's about to happen.
That makes sense. It reminds me of something that me and Alex always talk about here on the show, especially when it comes to horror movies and there's jump scares. Deciding to describe the jump scare or describe something before it happens
Yes.
or after it happens. In live performance, do you find you have to make those kinds of decisions often? And when you do, how do you decide whether you should describe it before or after the moment happens?
Yeah. That's a really important point. And I'm going to ask you, if you were listening to a description, what seems to work with you the best way? Because this brings in the patron and their preferences. Sometimes I find that the patron wants to know only the jokes, or a patron wants to know only when they're dancing. They have their specific wishes, right? Um, what feels most important to you? Is it the lead up to the actual occurrence, or is it right on the occurrence itself? What feels right to you, or is it depends upon the play?
Well, I mean, I'd imagine like if it's someone firing a gun, like you said, like, yeah, describing them holding up the gun, and then we hear the shot, so you don't need to say,
They shoot.
yeah, like,
Right.
and you can say it out. I mean, we heard it go off, but I mean, just to confirm that he's the one who actually shot.
Right.
But
Right.
like, yeah, I mean, I think if it's like gonna make the audience jump or shocked, I'd rather be after so that I can experience that with the audience. But as long as it's something you can like set up in a previous description so that when the audience is shocked, I'm not completely confused. And then afterwards, you can clarify what just happened. But yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
What about
Yes.
you, Lee?
Yeah, I think I would agree. I always like it when there's a little bit of setup, but if there's enough context clues to give us the gist of what's going on, I'm
Mm,
good with that. And I'd rather have the description of what just happened happen after the moment rather than right before the moment.
got it.
Because in movies, sometimes you'll see he shoots him in the head and then you hear the gunshot go off. But I'd rather have that moment happen afterwards so I could be at the same level of shock or surprise as any other audience member that's watching.
Yes, and therein lies the questioning of yourself. Like when I'm describing what is best, like sometimes JC or Deborah will say, let's not do the reveal. Like it might be a big, huge costume reveal, and you have to be careful not to ruin the moment. So you can prepare in the description, the pre-show notes, you can prepare that there is a costume there and it looks kind of, full of sequins and but when it finally happens and everybody sees it and you hear the audience go, then you can describe it, what it looks like, and that it's being revealed. So it's a very delicate balance, and you have to be so thinking and so on top of it so that you don't ruin it for the patron. So that's my experience. Sometimes it's worked and sometimes it hasn't.
I'm sure it gets tricky, like you were saying, just juggling the preferences of different patrons because there's not always a one size fits all. Everyone is so
Correct.
individualistic and has their own preference. That doesn't make a preference right or wrong. It just makes everyone very different. On that
Yes.
note, though, I'm curious to know what you have learned from your patrons. I mean, you had talked about that you learn a lot from your patrons. So, what has the blind and low vision community taught you as you interact with them that's either changed or impacted the way that you do the work in live audio description?
Yes, my patrons have been so generous with me. When I first started, there's a tendency as a describer to over describe, too many words, too much, and just wanting to get it all out because you're afraid that you might miss something and they might miss something. But what my patrons have been very clear about is that if you overtalk, they let you know. They're very honest about what doesn't work for them and what does work for them. And so I've learned I had to stop over talking. And it's okay, but it's uncomfortable when you say, for instance, one of the character say you have two characters on a stage. One starts moving closer to the other character, and you can allude to it, but then let them come together. What Deborah said to me was so fascinating that the patron is usually listening. Their listening ability is very high. They hear the change in the voice, where the voice is, when it comes together, when they're speaking together, when they're speaking far apart. So you don't have to describe that necessarily, but you can say they come together, they hold hands, so it sets up the mood. They kiss, right? So it sets up the mood and the unifying um kind of action of the scene. So it's my patrons are my best teachers. And that's why, after all, that's why we're doing it. We're doing it for them. But we're also doing it for ourselves because when we see that it's really impacted a patron, we're so happy because it's really, for us, we realize that we have been the eyes for them, and that's a gift.
Do you have a favorite play that you've described over the years?
Well, I have to say, that Wicked for me is one of my favorites. I have to say it. I There was also another play I'm trying to remember the name of it. It was so beautiful and so subtle and indecent. I think it was the name of it. It was a brilliant play. And I was moved. And of course, Inheritance was one incredible play. Musicals for me these days, some of them are so big and so complex that I want to kind of say, okay, all right, this is good. But I guess I would have to look at the different genres. Like Clue was fun. It was just fun, and there's so many plays that I've done. I love Fiddler, but that's me. I'm kind of an old Broadway person. The mood of it and the technique of it, and I'm sure there's 100 other things that I just love, but those come to mind.
Do you find plays easier to describe than musicals? Because to me, it seems like it would be a little bit easier, even though they have their own challenges as well.
I absolutely agree. Musicals, if they're small, are wonderful, but then you have to, if it's a musical, you have to describe the dancing and the singing and the acting you have to describe what's going on stage because you hear the music, but you're not sure if some group is coming across the stage, if there's nobody on stage, if there's, a whole chorus line coming down stage. So what you want to do is it's more complex. Somebody like a one person show or a two-person show or even five people. For me, it's a little bit easier. Although I've done a one person show where they've done a lot of costume changes, a lot of lighting and change. And so you're always with them describing what they're doing. And it can be complex, but usually musicals are much more because they're a bigger show. Lots of set changes and lots of costumes and lots of dancing and movement, and you have to decide what's important to focus on. You can't tell the patron everything. You just can't. It's impossible.
What was the most difficult thing you've had to describe? Like I know sometimes the Hollywood Bowl does some events that aren't really plays that aren't really, they're kind of like, movie and concert or whatever. Is there anything that you've ever described that's been pretty difficult, but you got through it?
Oh my God. Well, I remember doing Moulin Rouge when I first did it. And Deborah said, "Oh, Joanne, back to the drawing board here because it was so it was so amazing. So much going on there. As far as the Hollywood Bowl, some of that it's complex, but it's more complex for the patron because sometimes the sound doesn't work as well, and the sound is vital, obviously, for the patron and the describer. And if we run out of sound, or if it doesn't work, or the patron is not getting the sound, then that's, that can be a problem. But as far as difficulty, I would say for me, it would be the big complex musicals. Clue is a whodunit where people are coming in and out of doorways and they're all coming together or they're separate, and it's trying to unify. And what is that beautiful show again? The one with the tiger.
The Life of Pi.
Life of Pi. I did it as though I were choreographing a show. I literally, cue to cue, I memorized all the cues that came in there because it happens so fast. All of a sudden, a tiger is jumping on you, or, suddenly there's different people in the boat or different things in the boat, elements. So I had to memorize everything because I had to be on top of it. So difficulty is, I guess, for each describer, it's a different thing. Who I am, what I've been as a performer, what I've been in my life really does affect how I approach it and how different I do in the describing. And Anthony would do it differently, and Roman definitely, and we're all very different, and yet there is a technique, like Deborah has created this whole manual where when we get trained, we have to learn it. And if we don't, we're doomed in some cases to fail. And so she's like mother hen for us. She says, okay, we have to do it this way. And we have to learn how to do it. It's like learning anything, like any craft or any art. So that kind of gives you a little bit of the internal part of describing.
Do you guys describe the movies in concert or no?
I know that, JC is amazing. She goes to all the concerts. She's an amazing describer, and she solves so many problems because very often the sound is so high that sometimes the patron cannot hear if they wear the headsets. So she literally speaks to them almost person to person because it's harder to hear with the headset on. So she does a lot of our concerts. Roman is wonderful with, oh gosh, he's so wonderful with the contemporary stuff. He so knows the stuff. It's like he grew up with it. Anthony is fantastic with Broadway and opera, and Deb, she just does it all. She's a wild woman. She does movies, television, live theater, and every once in a while, JC does the videos or movies or whatever. She jumped in. She also does, JC actually did a whole slew of operas that were described and amazing. She brought us into the LA Opera. That's a whole unique thing. So you get to read the super titles, describe what's going on, and it's another unique way of describing. I love opera, though. I love it. Having been Italian and brought up with two opera singers in my family, whatever. But it's fun for me.
I could only imagine when you talked about Moulin Rouge, describing the opening number of that show, the first 10 minutes, which is just like, and it's like theater on crack, it's just like so many things are happening in so many different places. And I can only imagine how you go about describing that, because it's like, what do you describe first of all? Because there's 5 million things happening and all of it makes a difference, like the lighting, the costumes, the choreography, the sets. Like, Yeah, I mean, how was that experience for you? And I love that show. I've seen it like 17 times live, so I'm a very big Moulin Rouge fan.
Oh
But
my God.
that opening number is wild, though.
It certainly is. Oh my God. It was so, I know it happened that Deb decided that she was going to watch my first Moulin Rouge. It was, I, I did the best I could, but luckily enough, she gave me a hint where to focus my attention because so much was going on. And it was, and then I wanted to do it more and more times because I wanted to get it right, do it correctly so it wasn't overwhelming for the patron and for me. And so sometimes, yeah, and like Hamilton, oh my God, another incredible show with so much going on. I loved Hamilton, actually. I totally forgot about that. I can't believe it. But yes, actually, JC, myself, and Deborah, all because they did it so many times at the Pantages and at the Segerstrom, that we had almost like a confab. We helped each other do that show because it was so there was so much going on and it so many changes. So so sometimes we'll do it almost as a team, a team um, negotiating the pre-show notes and describing what's going on stage and who's about to come out and who's, and where the scenes change. So it's a another complex thing to do, but we love it so much. All of us love it. We kind of have to make a decision who's going to do it these days. Except I have to tell you, this is one of my experiences with Hamilton. I had done it about 5 times, and I went in and I thought, oh, it's another Hamilton. I went in on a Saturday, and they had decided, when I do the pre-show notes, they had decided to put all the understudies in. So all my descriptions of the understudies, they were all different. And I went, wait a minute, that's not the character. It was a big surprise, and they didn't announce it. They just put the understudies, the entire cast. So that was a challenge, I have to tell you.
And it's a challenge too, because in that show specifically, it just moves and there's very little breathing room to even interject any description.
Right, right, exactly. And it's so good. It's so brilliantly put together, and you don't want to ruin it. um, but that's what I think creates such a challenge and such a loving experience because it shows that you always have something to learn, always with this field. And the patrons, they're so amazing. That's all I have to say. I wish we could reach out to so many more and just let everybody know about what this is because we want to do more of it. We want to have more people experience the theater. I'm sorry, I'm going on and on, but I had one patron for the opera. She had never experienced audio description before, and she went to the opera and she came to me afterwards and she was crying. She said, I never knew what I missed. I never knew what I missed. And I am so grateful. And I was, it was very emotional for me because that's the whole point. Let people experience the theater, the live theater.
It truly is a beautiful gift. I'm curious to know too, then, kind of switching to the other side of things, what's something that you think that the sighted audience takes for granted or could take for granted that is important to communicate within live description?
Oh, what a great question. Um, I don't think a sighted person realizes the subtlety in movement and relationships on stage. How important that is. They sometimes they see it and they might not feel it, but with a blind patron, or a blind person, they feel the connection. And it's really, really vital and important that they feel that my verbiage or my description has to allow kind of an open heart. And when you're sighted, you see sometimes everything, and sometimes you don't see everything. Like I had a patron's partner, and they came up to us and they said, I didn't realize that that happens in the play until you described that that was there because they were listening along with their partner. I didn't realize that they picked up this locket or whatever. I didn't even know that. So it's a very intricate art form as a describer. And I wish we had much more connection with the patrons because they're teachers for us. They're the teachers. They understand what they need to know.
That's why me and Alex love having like live audio describers on, as well as, TV and film audio description writers and performers, is because hopefully people will be listening to this. And if they live in the Los Angeles area, hopefully it'll inspire them to go check out a live performance, knowing that there is accessibility available.
Yes.
And, hopefully from there, that'll allow you and the rest of the team to connect with those patrons too.
Yes, I hope so. I hope it keeps on growing. Just that we reach out to the folks who don't know anything about that this actually exists. And it gives hope and it gives a whole new life arena where they can experience so much more, which is exactly what we're hoping to do. Deb has started this at more than 30 years ago, and I'm grateful.
Lee, do you know if they do this in other cities as well?
Yes, they do. Yeah, they do it. They actually do it in London. They do ballet in London, and it is phenomenal. They have a regular describer who they can go backstage, they can feel the costumes. They have a whole program, and there are regulars that come in every week, go to the ballet, and it's fantastic. They do it in New York. They do it around the country, actually. I think they have it in Chicago, they have it in San Francisco and San Diego. We do some San Diego stuff. So, but that's all California and, up in the West Coast. But yes, they do. They have it in other places. I think they have it in Florida. Deb knows everywhere.
It's wonderful that they're becoming more widespread with it, because I know for a long time this wasn't a thing at all. And
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
it's spreading to other cities and even other countries. And I think that's so significant and such a beautiful gift for everyone who's in the blind and low vision communities, and even people that aren't in those communities that might want to check it out as well.
Yes, absolutely. And I know that with all the describing and everything, as people get older, their vision is less and less in some cases, and this is such an addendum to it. It's so helpful. We're expanding to other areas, and JC is so funny. She's studying wrestling, the wrestling. I forget what they call it, but she is so wants to describe wrestling. And um we'll
Oh
it's
yeah, are
just
you guys doing sporting events?
yeah, well, we're starting to.
Okay.
They're starting to call us. And it's just fantastic because in describing sporting events, I mean, of course you have an announcer, but they don't always announce when somebody comes up from the audience and runs onto the deck and slaps the so it's a whole other world.
Are
Yeah.
you guys doing Dodger games or no? Not yet.
We're not, well, we have to be called. We have to actually the blind patrons have to ask for audio description. And there has to be a connection there, but it's part of the law.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So it's a
Because when I
request.
go, I listen, they give you like the radio and it's
Uh-huh.
not delayed at the
Yeah.
stadium.
Yeah,
So I know what's going on through that, but I can't participate in the stuff in between innings. Like you said, if someone runs out
right,
on the field, there's
right.
things that I can't see that's still going on. So it'd be great to have both
Yeah.
options.
And part of that is just talking to, well, you can talk to Deb about it. And certainly JC is an advocate for spreading out, the different aspects like sports and arts. And, she is just such a good person because she just sees the openings of what can happen. And of course, the Olympics are coming. And that's a whole other world. So part of it is upon request. And that's how we started doing all the rock concerts over at the SoFi. And people started requesting the concerts. And so they got in touch with us and they asked us to do it. It's just getting to the different venues, basically. We just did something at La Mirada, which is not a theater that we have had before.
It's one of the things that we always talk about on here is, sometimes we have to be our own advocates. And hopefully, as time goes by, things will become more normalized. But for now, for anyone that's out there in the Los Angeles area, you can always call the box office for any venue that you're going to see a show or a live performance at, and you
Yeah.
can request audio description. And most likely it's going to be someone from your group, Audio Description Los Angeles. But it starts with getting in touch with the venue first. So for those of you out there who want to see a live performance, call the venue and request audio description. And by law, as you said, Joanne, they have to give it to you.
That's right. Thank you so much for saying that. It's really important. And also if they want, I called it a dog and pony show, but if management wants to understand what's going on, Deborah does a fantastic job of describing what description is all about and how it works. And she has a slideshow, she has the whole thing. It's beautiful. And it's so wonderful because you see the light go on in the person's eyes. You say, oh, now I get it.
Mm.
Yeah. Whereas before, if you explain it, sometimes it just doesn't make sense. Yeah. I mean, it's about asking for it and not to be afraid. And they can always get in touch with JC or Deborah, and we can let them know who to ask for a date when they can have an audio describer.
Yeah, no, very good information.
Has to be
Alex,
2 weeks in
oh,
advance, right?
That's what they say. Sometimes we can do it, quickly. Some theaters are better than others. So 2 weeks, if you want to buy a ticket, if you buy a ticket and there's no audio description on that day, you can request it. And then they'll call us.
definitely. Alex, do you have any final questions before we wrap up?
No, I think we'll put all that information in the description for you guys.
Great. Thank you. I'm so delighted. This was just fun. It makes me think about what I'm experiencing. You know, I get so busy that I forget. But thank
Well,
you so much, both of you. I really enjoyed this.
yes, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. It was very insightful for us. And both me and Alex have used your services before from your team for live performances. And we both really appreciate the work that you guys are doing and continue to do to make live performance accessible.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, are you both at Pasadena Playhouse? I know you go there quite often, right?
I go there. Alex, you have not been there before, right?
When I was a kid, I went.
Oh, oh.
I
Okay.
usually go to Pantages or the Amundsen, yeah.
Oh, the Amundsen. Oh, right. Oh, great. Yeah, we love that. I'll see you at the Amundsen or wherever.
Yeah, I mean, I might be trying to get you guys at Dodger Stadium this year. I don't know. We'll see.
Oh, that's amazing. That
That
would
would
be
be awesome.
amazing. Yeah, I know that it's so funny. JC is studying up on her sports. So she's going to baseball, she's watching baseball games and wrestling and oh my gosh, it's amazing. So she'll be happy to hear that.
And the best way to get in touch with you, Joanne, or anyone from the Audio Description Los Angeles team is to go to the website. Is that correct?
Um, yes, you have JC's email, right?
Correct.
What I would do is basically give her email, tell the patron or tell whoever you want to talk to sign up for our mailing list because she sends something out once a month with new shows in it and what's going on. And that would be, and she also communicates to the patrons. If they have a question, she tells them the lay of the land. She tells them how to get tickets or where to go and who to speak to. She's very, very good with PR and marketing and information. So if you want to, you can put her email in there and she'll put you on them or whoever it is, she'll put them on the mailing list, which is really important.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, we'll link JC's email in our description if they would like to be added to the Audio Description Los Angeles mailing list. And
Great.
then for anyone else who has questions for me and Alex about anything we covered in today's episode, you can always email us at darkroomfilmcast@gmail.com. Once again, that's darkroomfilmcast@gmail.com. You can follow us on Instagram at darkroomfilmcast and subscribe to our YouTube channel at darkroomfilmcast as well.
We'd like to thank Matt Lauterbach and All Senses Go for helping out with captions and BlindCan for helping out with editing.
Thank you so much, Joanne, once again for being here.
Thank
And
you.
thank you all for listening. And we'll see you back here next time on The Dark Room.
Thank you
Take care.
so much. Bye bye.
Thanks.